How y'all doing? My name is Inoki Tukia. This is the project that was due, or that is due today, um, the 14th of October, here at midnight for PE 570 Leadership Administration of PE and Athletic Programs. I'm going to get right into this as I just continue to talk about this subject that I chose to talk about, um, specifically for the school that I'm currently at, which is Arrowhead Christian Academy football. And we're also, this project will consist of just the philosophy and the culture and the rules, something I think that needs to be implemented into our school. Now, there is an athletic director philosophy and rules, but um, it is not emphasized at all at our school. And so I think it's very important that not just the students and the parents, but coaches as well adhere to this. I think administration also needs to be informed that it's a bit lackluster with what we have right now. And bring this up because there are a lot of issues right now with our football program, and just the philosophy and the culture and the rules. I think is something that needs to continue to be bolstered into something that um, has a foundation. Like I said, there is a written document, but that document was never introduced to me. It was actually given to me through a third party. So I think that this is something I would like to definitely bring about at my school, maybe even present it in front of my administration and my head of school to just maybe emphasize the importance of this topic, these topics. So, with that being said, this is actually something that I highly anticipate I will be doing in front of the school here soon in the near future. Okay, continuing on. So, for slide number 3, my values, faith, and beliefs, and how they relate to this topic. Fortunately, for my situation, I am teaching at a Christian high school, Arrowhead Christian Academy. And so, the type of school that I am currently at has a mission statement that follows along the lines with the fulfillment of what we believe in, as in the type of philosophy and the culture and the rules that we want based upon the mission statement of the Christian school that I attend or that I teach at and coach at. So, um, just in a short, brief description of the mission statement, it's really a school where we want to acknowledge Christ-centeredness with the students, faculty, and the staff. So that kind of encompasses everything that falls in line with the type of philosophy and the type of culture and the type of rules that we want to be emphasizing. So scripture would no doubt be highly looked upon to formulate and format specific rules, cultures, and the type of philosophy that we're uh, uh, trying to build here at Arrowhead Christian Academy. Um, and that's really, it's really great, being at a private Christian school. All my values, faiths, and beliefs, totally, I cannot explain it any better, but they relate to this particular topic, and so that's why I wanted to take it on, just full force with just first, taking a look at God and how He views um, us and ways we can use His teachings to influence the philosophy and the culture and the rules over here at Arrowhead Christian Academy, so that everybody is, acknowledging the Christ-centeredness that the mission statement wishes to encourage us to do. So moving on. Coaching staff, this is who I would probably approach this presentation with first. My head coach, Coach Rod Robinson, assistant head coach and defensive coordinator, Coach McMahon, offensive line coach, Coach Bodine, and defensive line coach myself. We're a staff of 4, so it's really small compared to some of the public schools, but I think that has large part to do with just the amount of kids that attend our school, and so we're a fairly small school too. So I mean, this is just one of the many things that we encounter here at small schools, just small coaching staff. Let's try this here. Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay. So there you have that coaching staff. So moving along here. All right. What is successful coaching? I believe this is an important aspect of um, what it means to not only be a successful coach, but I think some coaches need guidelines, and I think I want to make sure that I put this into this presentation to make sure that the coaches understand why I think it's important that I bring about this change in our philosophy and the culture and the rules in our football program. So, what is successful coaches? Are the coaches invested in getting the student athletes moving to the next level, or are the student athletes perimeter trained, much like circus elephants? Blackburn talks about this in his book, and I think this is as a coach slash teacher. I think this is something that we should all aim to. Are we really trying to develop the student athlete, or are we not? And if you're not, then I highly suggest that maybe the profession of coaching and teaching is something that either one needs to get worked on, or either two, you need to find another profession that best fits the type of person you are. Uh, the Strengths Finders book, I think, is a great way in trying to understand if maybe this is a path for you if you're a teacher or coach, to find out your strengths and to find out what works for you best. But if you're not developing the student athlete to become a better student athlete to get to the next level and perform well at the next level, whether it be in academics or be in athletics, then I highly think that, hey, look, there are people that are fit to do the job, that are capable of doing a great job, and if it's something that you need to work on, then I highly recommend those coaches and those teachers to strengthen their just their characteristic abilities to become better coaches slash teachers, wherever it may be. I think that's important. Something else, successful coaching. There is a life and death in the power of the tongue. I don't know how more true this could be stated. Just as a coach, I know that you're also a mentor and someone that the students continue to look up to. So saying, things on the basis of, whether it's positive or negative can have huge detrimental effects on the student athlete. I think when you're trying to be considered a successful coach, I think it's more you want to recognize the positive things than the negative things. But I will admit that, sometimes uh, negative things do come out. But I think as a coach and as a teacher, you need to realize that there are ways to approach a student athlete if something is not going the way that you had planned it to go. So the next bullet point is probably explain this a little bit better here. So consistent positive affirmation that encourages rather than denigrate yields amazing results. So especially with this generation now, I mean, you really have to be careful with just the words that come out of your mouth. And I try myself to be more of a transformational leader, and not so much the transactional type. I say this because I've done some reading and some research on the effects of transformational leadership as opposed to transactional leadership. So I think when you're really investing in a person's morals and character, I think it really brings out the best of the person. And I think by being positive and affirming certain situations in a positive way really helps to develop the player mentally and physically. So that's important. Building trust. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, that's just something that comes with developing rapport with students, student athletes, coaching staff, and administration. I think when you really build that trust with a player, you can get players to buy into what it is you're trying to do, what it is you're trying to preach to them. Um, I know as a defensive line coach, I haven't had too many issues with students not trusting in the process, and I think that's just a huge part of being a coach is when you get student athletes to trust in the process. I mean, the sky's the limit. You could do amazing things. It doesn't matter how big, how fast, or how strong your student athletes are. When you have the trust of a student athlete. I mean, things could be amazing for your staff, whether win, lose, or draw. It's a great thing to have that trust too, and to come in there as a coach and to really say things and have kids just automatically buy into it. So building trust is a huge part of coaching, successful coaching. Coaches capture the heart of their players. Again, this kind of piggybacks on the trust. Um, Once you develop trust with a player, I think no doubt you're going to be able to capture the heart of the players as well. Coaches are lifelong learners and stay up to date with regard to knowledge of their sport. Oh man, there's so many. I've been on so many different coaching staffs that have really overlooked this aspect of successful coaching, and a lot of them are due mainly to pride. You know, a lot of them think they know everything or they'll develop whatever. But I've always been the type to see what other schools are doing, see what other coaches are doing, see what's working, see what's not working. And part of that requires some sort of learning, whether it's going to conferences or reading a book, or even going down to the fundamentals and finding old books and see how it all started, see where it all formulated from. I mean, it's just a great way as a coach to really get some ideas as far as what it is you want to do on the field, or even how to interact with student athletes or other faculty and other coaches. I mean, there's a plethora of information out there for coaches to use to develop themselves to become successful coaches. And I'm always a big advocate for if you're a reader, you're a leader, you know, and so that's always been important to me. And I think no doubt that as a coach to become successful, you got to continue to learn on a day-to-day basis, year-to-year basis. You're always adapting to different environments, different scenarios, and this requires to learn. So seeing what's hot and seeing what's not out there really helps a coach, I think, really develop into someone who could be absolutely successful. Relationship driven. Again, this goes back to the transformational leadership that I look at. I think when you're really driving to be transformational in the type of coaching that you are conducting, you're really trying to develop a relationship, and you're not just trying to win games and build revenue at your school. I mean, which are both two important aspects, but I think ultimately it comes down to the student athlete. Are you really taking time as a coach, as a teacher, to really develop a relationship, a meaningful relationship with that student athlete so that they continue on and continue to grow as a person, as an athlete, on and off the field? Um, Shepherd led. So for me, as a man of faith and the Christian faith, I absolutely believe that coaching is a calling to lead the flock. You know, and what better example to look at than to see and look at what Jesus Christ did for his people. You know, he laid his life on the cross, you know, and rose on the third day for those to be saved, you know, their sins, you know. And I mean, when you really take a look at the depth of what it means to be shepherd led, you really understand that you have an important calling to take care of those student athletes that are under your tutelage and are part of your flock. And um, from from the least likely player that's not going to play to your best athlete, you want to make sure that you're treating everybody equally in terms of you're not favoring your best athlete over everybody else. You want to make sure that yeah, he is the best athlete or she is the best athlete, but at the same time you want to make sure that you're putting just as much work and just as much rapport and care into those student athletes that may not physically be as gifted. So I think as a shepherd, you want to make sure that you tend to all your flock and not just a few. I mean, Jesus uses the example, or there's an example with Jesus when one goes astray. You know, he goes out to go. The shepherd goes out to find that one that's gone astray, and I think that is a huge lesson for someone who's leading a flock. Is you're going to have athletes that are going to completely dominate. Then you're going to have athletes that don't necessarily buy in to what you're trying to do. So, I mean, as a coach, you want to make sure that you have ways of developing means of buying in for those that have trouble doing it. And I mean, for me as an educator as well, that requires me to make accommodations, modify things and make sure that, hey, look, maybe kinesthetic learning is not the best way to reach this guy. So I always carry a board with me, a whiteboard with me to try to help student athletes understand concepts that we're trying to comprehend in football with X's and O's. Because I know some people are visual learners, and sometimes they need to see things on a whiteboard, and so being able to understand the different types of uh, just cognitive thinking among student athletes could really help you as a shepherd to lead your flock into potentially becoming a successful coach, and so I think that's important, no doubt. Next slide here. So this is the coaching philosophy portion. This is what I believe. Uh, this is actually the mission statement of our school, and so I put it in here. I'm just going to read it real quick, and then we'll go off from here. As a coaching staff, we want to be in line with our school's mission statement. The mission of Redlands Christian School is to provide a Christ-centered excellence in education while partnering with the church and home to advance God's kingdom. This mission undergirds every aspect of learning and drives our commitment to a strong, uh, integrated academic program. Okay? So again, want to make sure that the mission statement is something that is clear in our philosophy, our culture, and our rules here at our Arrowhead Christian Academy. And I think following along the lines of our mission statement can definitely help, like I said earlier, bolster those aspects of what this presentation is really about. What does our philosophy look like? Well, one, we honor the gospel and everything it entails. We want to be a staff that understands the life, death, and resurrection of the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, that He died for our sins so that sinners can be seen as righteous and in the sight of our Lord. 2 Corinthians 5:21. Again, this is just, I don't know, I just feel like it's basic 101 for a Christian school. So having been here, this is something I think will help us to understand the type of philosophy that we're trying to reach here at our school. Uh, we will pray for our team in school after every practice and after every game. That this is more of a, I guess you could say, a rule. Um, this is more of a rule, and I think it's something that um, I put in the philosophy as well, just because I think it's something that falls in line with the mission statement. If we are Christ-centered, we want to make sure that we are praying and are prayerful with our team. So that's why I put it here. Weekly Bible studies will be conducted by one team member each week. This is something also that we've implemented this year. We have a student athlete that will actually give kind of like a mini sermon about a specific verse. So each week we do this with one of our student athletes, and I think it's been very beneficial for them. And just having them see and hear God's word coming out of one of their own is something that has been great for our team and has been great for developing the type of philosophy that we're trying to develop here at the school. I gotta find a place to put this here. Okay. So, what does our philosophy look like? Continued granting influence, having influence which makes kids believe they are important. Listening. There are times when a coach has to make a decision an athlete is not going to like, but it helps to give the athlete a chance to offer an opinion. Making apologies when adults apologize to children for a mistake they make. It gives the student, it sends a powerful message of caring to the student. So I think these are just three of very, very important aspects of philosophy that I want to get across to our staff here. Having influence which makes kids believe that they're important. I mean, you don't want to go out there and be a type of coach or a teacher that really belittles, and so I know as a coach for me, I want to make sure that the student athlete understands that not only they care for and they love for, but I will show, tough love, and I will raise my voice in times, but I just want them to know that it's because I care for them. I want them to be better at whatever it is that I'm trying to critique them on or coach them up on. I mean, it's really part of coaching, and so being able to use appropriate times when the voice needs to be raised, I think is important. It's something that I do, and our coaching staff, we talk about it as well. Like we will come up and we'll be like, okay, you're going to be the backup today. I'm going to be the good cop, and some of it's methodical. So, I mean, we really try to make sure that we're not always downplaying our student athletes, but making sure that they understand that they are important. Listening to number 9 there are times when the coach has to make a decision an athlete is not going to like, but it helps to give the athlete a chance to offer an opinion. I mean, nowadays with social media, everybody's opinionated. But we, as a coaching staff, also want to be able to emphasize this in our philosophy and make sure that, hey, look, the students have a voice too, even though we do come up with certain things that we want to be seen, that we want to be, that we want certain ways. Students still have an option to offer up their opinions. Making apologies. We want to make sure that we catch. We're not perfect by any means, coaching staff, and so as a philosophy, I just want coaches to understand that. Hey, look, there's gonna come times when we're gonna have to man up and we're gonna have to say, hey, I messed up, or maybe even remind the student athlete that they were right. I mean, when students see this and see that you're not perfect, I think it really just helps them to understand you as a coach and helps to develop the trust between you and the student. Okay, the culture of our program in relationship to our school's mission statement. We also want to develop a culture of individuals that see Christ in everything they do. From practicing to lifting weights, we want students to be part of the culture that is Christ-centered and God-centered and God-honoring. Excuse me. So, um, what does developing our culture look like? Students must buy into what we are preaching as a staff. Okay, our football team is not parent-run nor student-run, and is run by the coaching staff. I think this is something that is really important, especially at the private school. In the private school sector, a lot of parents and a lot of students, think that, oh, my parents are paying for me to come here, so they think they have some sort of privilege, or it's their football team and not the coaching staff. We've dealt with this on numerous occasions here, and it's only been my first year, and I've already had 3 different cases where parents and student athletes have actually tried to do things the way they want to, and we'll totally went against what our coaching staff was trying to do and trying to build here at this school. So I want to make sure that this is very apparent, when this does get presented, to make sure that parents understand that, hey, look, your responsibility as a parent is to um, raise your child and to honor the Lord in that aspect. And when He's on the football field and on the gridiron, we want to make sure that you understand that we'll take care of Him, make sure that what we're doing is God honoring, and if we are messing up, then we'll be happy to have a meeting or conference with you. But we want to make sure that the parents are not running the program as far as trying to tell us what to do, tell the students what to do. It's an issue here at this school. I don't know if other schools are encountering this, but I think it's important that we develop some sort of culture that reminds parents and student athletes of this. Rules and regulations will be adhered to by all coaches, and any differences in rules or regulations will have to be dealt with in a Christian godly way. We want to make sure that rules, when they are broken, that the coaching staff is able to get together and discuss the issue at hand, the challenges at hand, make sure that we're able to remedy whatever the issue is. I think that's important, something that we haven't been doing much of, as a first year coaching staff here at the school. Failure to buy into what we are preaching will result in removal of the team. We've had several student athletes asked to be, or not asked, but actually have left our team, some of them right in the middle of practice, because they didn't believe in what we were trying to do. As a coach, there's only so much you could do, and these are some of our best athletes that are walking off the field. Apparently, in the past, things were different, where players were running things, and when they get a little discipline and structure in their lives, they don't like it. So I'm all for trying to help kids to get back onto the team, but if they don't want to be there, then that's their choice. And as a coach, we want to make sure that we're not scaring kids away. So we had the chance to meet with those student athletes that left, and we prayed for them and asked them to come back, but they just they made their decision and decided not to return. So I think this is something too that needs to be reminded of just the type of culture that we're trying to bring here, and trying the type of attitude that we want to see with our student athletes and our parents. Continuing on with the culture, football is a great game, but it's not the primary factor in our lives. We want to make sure that we emphasize this as Christian godly coaches that, yeah, football is great, but it's not going to last for everybody unless, you become a coach later on in your life and you want to do that for the rest of your life. But we want to make sure that we are developing and honoring God and developing meaningful relationships and developing men to just grow at the next level, whether that's football or whether that's school or wherever their life may take them. We want to make sure that we're developing the type of characters to really impact this world in a positive way. Six, winning is great, but helping to evangelize the loss is more greater. Again, we know that there are student athletes on our team that haven't accepted Christ into their lives, and it's a huge concern of ours, and we want to remind ourselves and the student athletes that this is what really matters, because after this life, after this temporal life, we're going to encounter and we're going to be standing right before God, at His judgment seat, and He's gonna, eternal living will continue at that point, whether it be with the Lord our Savior or not. And so we want to make sure that we continue to be coaches that evangelize the lost, and we hope that if we can't make an impact on their lives now, that hopefully later down the road they can look back and see the importance of what we're trying to do here. That's one of our goals, and something we want to ingrain into our culture here at our school. 7, students will be respectful to their coaches. This includes referring to coaches coach or sir only. This is a huge issue. This could be another rule here, but just the culture at our school is when I first came in, I thought it was very lackadaisical, to say the least. People were referring to me, student athletes were referring to me as, "Hey, dude, hey, man, how you doing, bro?" Which is really odd, coming from high school students. But anyways, this is something too that we want to be able to develop at the Arrowhead ACA Academy. We just want to make sure that these men are growing up in an atmosphere where um, they're learning to be respectful, and so I think this is something that needs to be really developed at the school. It's tough at times because you know it's you have a 15-year-old nothing calling you bro. It can be really hard at times, and so we want to be able to change that type of culture, change that type of understanding at our school, and make sure that it's something that these students continue to learn. Arrowhead Christian football rules. Okay, so now we're going to jump into rule aspects, which continues to be directly in line with the school's mission statement. Excuse me. Students that miss one practice during season, regardless of the excuse, cannot play in the first quarter of that week's football game. Now, this has been a huge issue for us this year. Student athletes will constantly miss practice. which is unheard of for me coming from the public school sector. I mean, we have kids every week missing practice, and for various reasons. Some of them, some of them, I guess, can be excused. I wouldn't personally excuse them, but it's just gotten to a point where we need to make a rule for this. So if they miss one game or one practice in the week, they'll miss one quarter. If they miss two practices during the week, they'll miss one half. If they miss three practices, they will not be able to play. And this is something that not only needs to be put on paper, but it needs to be adhered to by the coaching staff. Although there's only four of us, we don't have a clear understanding of what this means and what this should look like. I think it's important that the coaching staff get together and then discuss this, because there's been multiple times when student athletes have missed practice, but we're still able to play in the game. So this is something that we need to emphasize um, serious on a serious level at our school. Students that are unable to maintain the 2.0 during the season cannot participate in the football team. Students that have 6 or more tardies to class will not be able to play in that week's game. Students involved in any misbehavior issues with school will be unable to play based on the severity of the misbehavior. Um, these are just basic rules that a lot of schools already have. 2.0 GPA, 6 tardies for our school per semester. So, and we've already had kids that have surpassed that. So, I think 6 is way too many. But hey, I mean, kids are still getting way more than that. Students involved in misbehavior issues with school will be unable to play based on severity of misbehavior. Again, I think this should be on a base should be on a base cases, depending on the severity of the cause. We've had some students just do some really incoherent things, like maybe name calling, whatever, other students. But then there's other issues where students have done some things that have been pretty severe, and so we want to make sure that case by case we're looking at what had happened during the scenario. Base we'll base our we'll base that scenario off on the amount of time that we'll take away from that student as far as playing time. More rules here before entering the football. Oh, this is before entering the football office. Another thing of respect here. In the past, it used to be a hangout, and so we want to make sure, if you take a look at bullet point 2, the football office is not a hangout for students. Okay, only essential personnel are allowed to be in there. I kid you not. For those of you listening and watching this, it used to be like a lunchroom for the whole school. And so we had all types of students in the football office, which is something that needs to be stopped immediately. I mean, that's a coaching office. It's a place where business is conducted. And so I feel like that needs to be a rule that needs to be established. Only the coaches have the ability to add or subtract anything from this rule book. Again, these are just the basic rules that I think have stuck out for this year and that need to be established with our football coaching staff, administration, and the student athletes. So, and if there needs to be changes or additions to this rule book, those will be made by the coaching staff. Concluding remarks. Again, the type of school, have this being a Christian school, a private school, it totally falls in line with our faith values and um, system, with our faith values and systems for what we're trying to preach here, as far as the philosophy and the culture and the rules for our coaching staff. So it all goes up to the type of school that we have. Mission statement is clear that we want to be Christ-centered in everything we do, and that trickles down to the type of philosophy, the type of culture, and the type of rules that we have. And our reference, which was Blackburn, and that concludes the presentation. And thank you very much.